Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into an ancient text that, let's be honest, sounds a bit boring. The Book of Numbers. But don't let the name fool you. This isn't just about a census. Hidden in those lists is this incredible, dramatic story of rebellion, a massive 40-year punishment, and ultimately a second chance. And that really is the central mystery, isn't it? I mean, a trip that should have taken a few weeks ends up lasting 40 years. How does that even happen? Well, the answer reveals everything we need to know about the two completely different generations at the very heart of this story. So it's only fitting that our story kicks off with a number, a big one, 603,550. That's how many men, 20 years and older, were counted as ready for battle. Picture this. The entire nation of Israel is camped out at the base of Mount Sinai, and this is their brand new fighting force. Now, this wasn't just about counting heads for the sake of it. No, this was something much bigger. This was about organizing an entire nation into a disciplined, powerful army. You can just feel the hope, right? The potential was massive. They were getting ready to march forward and inherit a new land. So, as they're doing this count, they split the people into two very distinct groups. On one hand, you've got the army, made up of the 12 tribes. These are the guys 20 and up who are going to do the fighting. On the other hand, you have the tribe of Levi. They were set apart. They weren't soldiers. Their sacred duty was to take care of the tabernacle, the holy sanctuary. Two very different roles, but all for one unified mission. Okay, so the counting is done, the army is organized, everyone's full of hope. They set out from Sinai, and almost immediately things just fall apart. I mean, what was supposed to be this disciplined march pretty much descends into a complete spiral of rebellion. And it all kicked off with, just general complaining. People grumbling about how tough things were. And that alone was enough to bring a punishing fire to the edge of the camp. But believe me, that was just the warm-up act. Right, so soon after, the complaints get way more specific. People start saying stuff like, if only we had meat. Remember all that fish we got for free back in Egypt? They're literally getting nostalgic for their lives as slaves. It's a huge red flag that their faith in this whole journey is just collapsing. And then it hits a fever pitch with this one question being wailed all throughout the camp. Why did we ever leave Egypt? I mean, think about that. That's a total rejection of everything they're doing. It's an act of profound disbelief, and it was met with a severe plague. So after all that, they finally make it. They're right there on the border of the Promised Land. This is it, the ultimate test. Moses sends out 12 leaders, one from each tribe, to go check out the land ahead of them. And what comes back is, well, two completely different stories. You have the majority report from 10 of the spies, and they are terrified. They talk about powerful people, huge fortified cities. They even say, we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes. They're spreading absolute panic. But then you have the minority report, just two guys, Caleb and Joshua, and their message is the complete opposite. They say, let's go, we can totally do this, the Lord is with us, don't be afraid. Same land, same reality, but two radically different perspectives. So who do you think the people listened to? Yep, they went with the fear. They chose to believe the terrifying report. They rebelled completely, deciding, you know what? Let's just pick a new leader and go back to being slaves in Egypt. It was absolutely the point of no return. And the verdict is delivered. And it is harsh. And get this, it's tied directly back to that very first census. The very generation counted for conquest, that army of 603,550 men, is now condemned to die in the wilderness. So what happens next? A 40-year death march. 1 year for every single day the spies were in the land. The wilderness, which was supposed to be a temporary path, now becomes a giant graveyard for an entire generation's failed faith. But you'd think that would be the end of the rebellions, right? No. Even while they're wandering, the dissent just keeps festering. The biggest challenge came from a man named Korah, who led an uprising against Moses' authority that ended in this terrifying and decisive judgment. And listen, when the judgment was passed, it meant everyone. No one from that original generation was spared, not even their leader, Moses, for his own moment of disobedience. The sentence was absolute, no exceptions. So after decades of wandering, the clock finally runs out on that condemned generation. But their story doesn't just fade away quietly. No, It ends with a bang. One final devastating plague. 24,000. That's the number of people who died in a plague after they started worshipping a foreign god, the Baal of Peor. You can think of this as the final violent punctuation mark on the old generation's story. And with the old generation gone, history starts to repeat itself, but with a really crucial difference. A second census is ordered. They're on the plains of Moab now, literally right across the river from their final destination. A new army is counted. This is a generation born and raised in the wilderness. And while the total number is pretty similar to the first census, the people themselves are entirely new. They grew up watching the consequences of their parents' failure firsthand. And that's where the Book of Numbers leaves us. The story, framed by two different censuses, has come completely full circle. And it poses this final provocative question that sets the stage for the next chapter. Has this new generation learned from the past, or are they destined to repeat it?